Let me ask you something simple. What do you do when no one's watching? Because that's where it begins. Mental strength isn't built in the spotlight. It's forged in silence, in simplicity, in small moments you don't think matter. The Shaolin path is not about showing off strength. It's about knowing you don't need to. We train not to look powerful, but to become something the world cannot move. Not easily, not ever. Today, I will share 7 rules. These are not rules to follow once. They are to be lived again and again until they become part of you. If you do, you'll become mentally unshakable, calm in the chaos, focused in confusion, strong in silence, discipline over motivation. It sounds simple, but it's the line that separates those who rise and those who stay where they are. Most people wait for motivation like it's some magical force that will pick them up, drag them to the gym, force them to study, help them break bad habits. They say, "I'll start when I feel ready." But here's the truth: the feeling never comes. It doesn't. Not when you're tired. Not when life hits hard. Not when the world feels heavy on your shoulders. Waiting for motivation is the fastest way to waste your life. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't care if you're tired, sad, angry, or uninspired. Discipline says, get up, go again, move. Even if your legs shake. Even if your mind screams for comfort. Discipline is the quiet voice that tells you, this is what needs to be done, and doesn't wait for permission. And this voice, when you feed it, becomes louder than all your excuses. Think about a rainy morning. Your bed is warm, the world outside is cold, and your alarm rings at 5 a.m. Motivation gone, nowhere to be found. Your mind whispers, sleep more, you deserve rest. And maybe you do, but discipline answers louder. You said you wanted change. Now prove it. That's the moment you decide what kind of person you are. And those quiet decisions, made in dark hours, shape your future more than any loud declarations ever will. You want to be proud of yourself. Stop relying on emotion. Emotions are temporary. They shift with the weather, with hunger, with stress. But discipline is the stone you stand on when the waves of life hit. It's the invisible armor that allows you to keep showing up, even when your world feels like it's falling apart. It's the fire that keeps burning when everything else turns cold. Look at athletes who train for the Olympics. You think they feel like practicing for 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single month of the year. Of course not. But they do it. Not because they feel like it, because they made a promise to themselves. Discipline is self-respect in action. It's telling yourself, I matter enough to follow through. Take a student who studies for months for an exam, even when friends are out partying, even when they feel exhausted, even when it's boring. That's not motivation, that's discipline. And that's why they win. They said, this is what I want. And they proved it with action, not just words. Your goals don't care how you feel. Your dreams don't care if you're motivated. The world only responds to what you do, not what you intended to do. Motivation is emotional, discipline is spiritual. It's the commitment you make to yourself every single day, with no applause, no spotlight, no audience. Discipline teaches you to do the hard thing when it's the last thing you want to do. It trains your mind to obey your higher self, not your weaker impulses. It's brushing your teeth when you're exhausted. It's eating clean when junk food is cheaper. It's working on your goals while others scroll for hours. And slowly, brick by brick, you build something powerful. A version of yourself that no failure, no bad day, no setback can destroy. You don't become unstoppable through hype. You become unstoppable through habit, through repetition, through showing up again and again until your body moves without negotiation and your mind stops asking for comfort. That's how real strength is built. Not by waiting for inspiration, but by creating discipline. Suffering is not your enemy. Your fear of it is. The pain itself isn't what destroys people. It's their resistance to it, their panic, their belief that it shouldn't be happening. But suffering is part of the human contract. To live is to feel discomfort, loss, uncertainty, hardship. The difference between weakness and power is how you respond to it. Do you hide from it? Do you numb it? Or do you face it head on, with eyes open, and say, I will not run, not today. Most people spend their lives avoiding suffering. They avoid hard conversations, so their relationships break. They avoid failure, so they never try. They avoid loneliness, so they settle for people who drain them. And what they don't realize is this: by avoiding pain, they invite even more of it. But the Shaolin path teaches something different. Don't run. Suffer consciously. Feel it fully. Face it like a mirror and use it to see what's inside you. There's a reason fire burns away the unnecessary. Suffering does the same. It strips away the illusions, the lies you tell yourself, the masks you wear. It humbles you. It shows you who you really are beneath the noise. That's why people who've been through real suffering often speak with quiet strength. Because they've met the darkness and walked through it. Not over it, through it. Think of a person who loses everything. A job, a relationship, a dream. And chooses not to numb the pain with distractions, but to sit in it. Really sit. Phone, no escape. Just silence and reflection. That's not weakness. That's power most people never taste. Because when you suffer with awareness, you begin to hear your real voice. Not the one shaped by comfort or approval, but the one forged in fire. Look at the mother who wakes up at 4 a.m. every day to work 2 jobs, just to give her kids a better life. She is tired. Her body aches. Her mind is heavy. But she does it anyway. Not because it's easy, because her suffering has meaning. And in that meaning, she finds purpose. That's what conscious suffering looks like. Pain turned into power, struggle turned into sacred duty. Or the man who chooses to sit alone in silence, instead of jumping into another toxic relationship, just to feel less lonely. He feels the weight of solitude, but he doesn't run from it. He learns to enjoy his own company. And in that silence, he finds peace that no one else could give him. That's conscious suffering. Don't numb your way through life. Don't run every time things get heavy, because every time you run, you teach your mind that it's weak. Every time you hide, you shrink. But when you stand still and breathe through the chaos, something shifts, you grow, you evolve, and you become someone who doesn't panic when storms come, because you've weathered them before. Not as a victim, but as a warrior. The pain you feel now could be the very fire that sharpens your mind, cleanses your soul, and teaches you the kind of self-respect no book or speech ever could. The discomfort in your chest, the ache in your heart, the exhaustion in your bones. That's your training. And if you can suffer consciously, with eyes open and heart steady, you'll realize something most never do. Pain is not just something to survive. It's something to learn from. Something to rise through. Something that, if you let it, will shape you into someone the world cannot break. Chaos is not rare, it's everywhere. In the world, in people, in our own minds. Plans fall apart, people change, pressure builds, and the noise keeps growing. But in the middle of all that noise, there is a place few people ever find: stillness. The kind of stillness that doesn't come from silence around you, but silence within you. And the way to reach it is through the breath. The breath is the anchor. When life spins like a storm, the breath remains steady. Inhale, exhale, calm, steady, quiet. You cannot control everything outside, but you can always return to your breath. This is what monks learn early. To move with the breath, not with the panic, not with the opinions, not with the fear. Because when you follow the world, you become reactive. But when you follow the breath, you move with clarity. Imagine standing in the middle of an argument, people yelling, accusing, tension rising like fire. Your heart wants to race, your mouth wants to explode. But you choose instead to breathe. Just that. One deep inhale, slow exhale. Everything slows down. Your mind sharpens. The chaos is still there, but it no longer owns you. This is what power looks like. Not dominating others, but mastering yourself in the middle of madness. Look at the athlete about to perform in front of thousands. Pressure is high, expectations are crushing, but before the first move, before the first step, they close their eyes and take one breath. That's the moment, that's control. That's when their body and mind align, and fear is replaced by presence. Or take the student walking into the exam hall, stomach tight, head spinning, hands sweating. Panic is ready to consume them, but they pause. One deep breath in, one breath out, and just like that, they step into the test with focus. Not because the fear vanished, but because they chose to lead with the breath, not the fear. Breathing sounds simple, but it's the foundation of awareness. When you breathe consciously, you return to now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. And now is where all your power lies. Not in the regrets behind you, not in the worries ahead. Just here, this moment, this breath. The reason most people break under stress isn't because they're weak. It's because they never learned to return to themselves. They never built a habit of anchoring their minds. The breath is the only tool you carry everywhere. No one can take it from you, and it costs nothing. Yet it has the power to reset your system, calm your nerves, sharpen your awareness, and keep you from making emotional decisions you'll regret later. Even in physical training, breath decides how far you go. The one who controls the breath controls the body, and the one who controls the body controls the mind. In Shaolin practice, every movement is tied to breath. Inhale to rise, exhale to strike, pause to reset. No wasted energy, no reaction, just rhythm. That rhythm turns into strength, into control, into presence that cannot be shaken by external noise. Try this in daily life. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when your phone delivers bad news, when a plan falls apart, when fear tightens your chest, before you react, breathe. Breathe like it's the only thing that matters. Because in that breath, you will find something rare. Control over yourself, and that control is where all greatness begins. Not in force, not in speed, not in panic, but in calm, in presence, in the breath. Simplicity is not laziness, it's precision. Most people confuse complexity with intelligence, noise with productivity, clutter with success. But the Shaolin path teaches something deeper. Simplify everything. Not because life is easy, but because clarity requires space. Your mind is like a room. The more clutter you allow inside, the harder it is to find what matters. Look at most people today. Their minds are filled with tabs, thoughts pulling them in 10 directions, unfinished tasks stacking like bricks, constant noise from devices, opinions, distractions, and they wonder why they feel overwhelmed. They think the answer is to do more. But more is not the answer. Less, done with focus, is. Think of a warrior before a battle. His blade is sharp, not because it is fancy, but because it has been stripped of all that is unnecessary. The same applies to your mind. If it is dull, it's not because you are weak, but because it's covered in too much information, too many commitments, too many voices that are not your own. Simplifying doesn't mean you stop doing things. It means you stop doing things that don't move you forward. Simplify your words. Speak only when necessary. Simplify your goals. Choose one or two that truly matter. Simplify your space. Let your environment reflect your focus. When your surroundings are clean, your mind follows. Imagine waking up in a room where everything is in place. Your clothes are set. Your journal is open. Your tasks are written. No chaos, no searching, no stress. Imagine the opposite. Mess everywhere, notifications ringing, clothes on the floor, no plan. Which one helps you feel calm? Which one helps you think clearly? Your outer world mirrors your inner world. If you can't breathe in your own space, you won't find peace in your own mind. Take the example of a student preparing for exams. One has 30 books open, 20 browser tabs, 5 planners, and a head full of anxiety. The other picks one subject, closes everything else, sets a timer, and works with full focus. Who will retain more? Who will burn out faster? Complexity drains energy. Simplicity channels it. Look at a monk's daily routine. It's not about how many things they do, but how deeply they do them. Eat with full attention. Walk with awareness. Train with presence. Nothing wasted, nothing rushed. Every action becomes a meditation. Now compare that to someone scrolling their phone while eating, half working while watching videos, talking without listening. They're everywhere, yet nowhere. Doing everything, yet accomplishing nothing. Your mind was not built to multitask. It was built to focus. When you simplify, you give it the chance to go deep, not wide, and depth is where growth happens. Reading one book deeply is more powerful than skimming 20. Mastering one skill is more powerful than starting 10. Speaking a few honest words is more powerful than endless empty talk. So ask yourself often, is this necessary? Is this helping me grow? Is this cluttering my energy or clearing it? Most people never pause to ask that. They let the world pile things on them, habits, thoughts, expectations, and without realizing it, they become buried in things that don't even belong to them. They carry mental weight that was never theirs to begin with. But when you simplify, you begin to see. When the noise fades, the truth becomes louder. The direction becomes obvious. You no longer chase everything, you move with purpose. Because when you live simply, you live powerfully. Not scattered, but sharp. not overwhelmed, but centered, not pulled in 10 directions, but anchored in one. And that kind of focus, that kind of clarity, is rare. It's what separates the distracted from the disciplined, the lost from the present, the weak from the wise. The body is not separate from the mind. The way you move, the way you breathe, the way you carry yourself, all of it speaks directly to your mental state. When you neglect your body, you teach your mind weakness. When you avoid discomfort, you teach your soul to shrink. The Shaolin way is not just about physical strength. It's about the transformation that happens when you train with intention, when you choose to suffer under your own discipline instead of someone else's judgment. Your body is a reflection of your habits, your choices, your discipline, not your genetics, not your luck. Every push-up you do when no one is watching, every run you complete in the rain, every rep you finish when your muscles scream. Those moments are not about building muscles. They're about building identity. They're about telling yourself, I don't quit when it gets hard. And that belief is worth more than any gym membership or workout program. Look at a person who trains consistently, not just when they feel good, not just when it's convenient, but every day, through pain, through boredom, through fatigue. Their posture is different. Their energy is grounded. They walk with quiet strength. That strength doesn't come from lifting weights. It comes from lifting themselves out of weakness. Over and over again, training your body is training your ability to endure. Think of a soldier carrying heavy gear for miles under the sun. It's not just about muscle, it's about mindset. It's about learning to keep moving when everything inside you says stop. And when you push your body beyond what's comfortable, something happens. Your mind follows. It learns that limits are often lies. That pain is not the end, but the beginning of growth. Even in daily life, this connection shows itself. When you skip the workout, when you sleep in again, when you give up halfway through, your mind remembers, and it becomes easier to quit the next time. But when you show up, even for 10 minutes, even when tired, even when sore, you build a pattern, and that pattern turns into power. Because consistency in motion creates consistency in thought. Think of the worker who wakes up at 5 a.m. to train before work. They're not just exercising, they're setting the tone for their entire day. They're saying, before the world demands anything from me, I take command of myself. That's not fitness, that's philosophy. It's a way of living. It's telling your mind, I lead this body, I lead this life. A strong body makes a strong mind harder to break. When you train under stress, your nervous system adapts. The heart rate rises, the breathing quickens, the pressure builds, and your mind learns not to panic. It learns to function in fire. When life throws you chaos, you're not surprised. You've been there. You've felt the burn, and you didn't break. That's the real reward of training. Not the abs, not the compliments, but the resilience. A monk once said, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you train with laziness, you live with hesitation. If you train with precision, you live with focus. The way you approach a simple push up is the way you'll approach your dreams, either with discipline or with excuses. And excuses are the fastest way to forget what you're capable of. Your body is your first home. It's the vehicle through which your purpose moves. How can you expect your purpose to move powerfully if your vehicle is weak, tired, neglected? Training is not a luxury. It's not an option. It's a responsibility. When you strengthen your body, you sharpen your will. When you build physical endurance, you awaken mental fire. And that fire, once lit, burns through every excuse, every limit, every doubt you used to believe. Silence is not emptiness, it's not weakness, and it's not fear. Silence is strength under control. It is power without noise. In a world obsessed with speaking, posting, reacting, and proving, silence becomes a weapon. And the one who can hold their tongue, hold their energy, and hold their presence, that person is untouchable. Because they don't need to speak to be felt. Their presence is their language. Most people speak because they feel empty when they don't. They explain themselves constantly. They argue to win approval. They chase validation with their voice. But Shaolin discipline teaches otherwise. Speak only when necessary. Speak only when the words serve. Everything else is noise, because when your words are rare, they carry weight. When your actions speak first, your voice becomes sacred. Look around. You'll see people wasting energy in constant talking about plans they never execute, about dreams they never pursue, about people they barely know. They argue to defend their pride, to protect their ego, to prove they're right. But the strong don't need to prove anything. They let results do the talking. They understand that truth doesn't need defending. It stands on its own, silent and solid, like a mountain. Think about the man in the room who listens more than he speaks. People notice him, not because he's loud, but because he's present. He chooses his words like a warrior chooses his strikes. Only when needed, never wasted. And when he speaks, people stop to hear it. Not because of volume, but because of precision. Imagine two fighters in the ring. One is loud before the match, shouting, beating his chest, calling out victory. The other says nothing, just breathes, just watches, just prepares. And when the time comes, the silent one moves with calm, strikes with control, and walks away without a word. That's real power. Power that doesn't need to broadcast itself. Even in daily life, silence is your shield. When someone insults you, your silence is strength. When someone doubts you, your silence is patience. When the world demands your reaction, your silence is strategy. Because not every fight deserves your energy. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every situation requires your voice. Sometimes, your silence is the most powerful statement you can make. Take the student who studies quietly while others joke around. They don't announce their dedication. They just show up every day, consistent, focused, grounded, and then comes the result. While others panic, the silent one smiles. Not because they're better, but because they invested their energy where it mattered. That's what silence does. It keeps you aligned with your mission. Or think of the worker who keeps improving behind the scenes. No boasting, no need for applause. They just move with intention, letting their growth do the speaking. Months later, they rise, and everyone's shocked. But they aren't, because they were always preparing. Quietly, constantly. That's the edge silence gives you. It keeps your progress invisible until it becomes undeniable. In silence, you learn to hear yourself. You start to notice the difference between what matters and what doesn't. You no longer chase opinions. You no longer react to every storm. You become calm, focused, lethal. Silence is not absence, it's alignment. When you train your mind to hold silence, you train it to become unshakable. The loudest one in the room is rarely the strongest. Strength doesn't scream. It moves with quiet confidence. Real power doesn't seek attention. It holds attention without asking for it. The disciplined man doesn't need to speak about his path. He walks it. He doesn't need to declare his goals. He becomes them. And every step he takes in silence, every choice he makes without a word, echoes louder than any speech ever could. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your mentor, not luck. If you're waiting for someone to show up and fix your life, you're wasting time. Because the truth is simple and sharp. It's all on you. The path, the pain, the progress, the purpose. Every inch of it is your responsibility. Not just the victories, but the failures. Not just the things you control, but how you respond to the things you don't. This is the mindset that separates those who rise from those who stay stuck. The moment you stop blaming, the moment you stop pointing fingers, the moment you take ownership of everything, that's when your real power begins to surface. Most people never take responsibility because it's easier to stay comfortable. Easier to say, I'm like this because of my past. Or, it's the system. Or, I would have made it if they had helped me. But the problem with those excuses is that they keep you stuck. They convince you that you have no control. And when your mind believes you're powerless, your actions follow. You settle. You stop fighting. You shrink. But responsibility rewires you. It tells your mind, this is my life. No one owes me anything. If I want change, I build it. That switch flips everything. Your energy changes. Your confidence grows. Not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop waiting and start moving. Think of a person born into hardship. No support, no money, no guidance. They could have used that story as a shield, a reason to stop. But instead, they woke up early. They worked when others slept. They read while others wasted time. They failed and stood up again, not because someone lifted them, but because they made a decision. I will not be a victim. And that decision transformed their life. Picture someone stuck in a toxic cycle, unhealthy relationships, dead-end jobs, bad habits. They keep saying, "I just have bad luck." But one day, they stop. They get quiet. They look in the mirror and say, "I'm the one who allowed this. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who said yes when I should have said no." And with that brutal honesty, something changes. They begin to walk out of the storm they've been standing in for years. Responsibility is not guilt. It's not self-blame. It's awareness. It's realizing that, while you may not have created every problem, you are the only one who can choose how to respond to it. And that choice is where your freedom lies. When you take full responsibility, you stop being a slave to circumstances. You become the author of your next chapter. Every time you say, "I'm responsible," your brain becomes stronger, your spirit becomes sharper. You stop being tossed around by emotions, by setbacks, by opinions. You become centered. And that center is what makes you unstoppable. Because now, every failure is a lesson, every loss is feedback, every obstacle is a test. And you don't run from them. You face them. You face them because you know no one else can do it for you. This mindset will make people uncomfortable. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. But the truth is, you just stopped living on your knees. You stood up. And when you stand up, the world has no choice but to shift around you. Take full responsibility for your time, your thoughts, your energy, your reactions. No more waiting. No more hoping for someone to show up and fix your path. The power has always been in your hands. When you realize that, the excuses begin to disappear. The noise begins to fade. And what's left is someone who doesn't beg for a better future. They build it with their own hands, brick by brick, moment by moment, choice by choice. Everything you're looking for is already inside you. Not in some distant mountain, not in a book, not in a mentor's advice. It's in your breath, your choices, your habits, your silence, your pain, your focus. These 7 Shaolin rules are not just principles to think about. They are practices to live. Because the path is not for those who merely want to feel strong. The path is for those who want to become it. You will not wake up one day with all your problems gone and your mind unshakable. There will still be noise. There will still be pressure. People will doubt you. Life will test you. Your own mind will try to talk you out of it. But the difference is, now you know where your center is. Now you know what to return to. Discipline over mood. Breath over panic. Simplicity over noise. Movement over comfort. Silence over ego. And full responsibility over blame. You don't need to shout about your strength. True strength doesn't speak. It shows. It's the person who walks through fire without asking for applause. It's the one who trains in the dark, studies in silence, heals in private, and builds without broadcasting. Because lions don't need to roar to remind the jungle who they are. They walk, and the ground remembers. Every morning you rise with discipline, you break the cycle of weakness. Every time you embrace discomfort, you train your mind to overcome. Every breath you take in chaos, you sharpen your focus. Every time you choose action over excuses, you become rare. And in a world full of people waiting to be saved, you become the one who saves yourself. Think about the warriors before you, the monks who trained for decades, not to impress the world, but to master the self. They didn't search for shortcuts. They didn't ask for easy. They embraced repetition, embraced solitude, embraced silence. And in that process, they became unbreakable. You have the same fire. You just have to feed it. Again and again. Especially when no one sees it. Especially when you're tired. Especially when your old self begs you to quit. Stop telling people what you're going to do. Show them. Don't explain your dreams. Build them. Don't wait for the right time. This is the time. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right where you need to be. The difference between a warrior and a wanderer is not talent. It's direction. It's discipline. It's the refusal to break, even when bent. You want to be mentally unstoppable. Then stop entertaining weakness. Stop feeding distraction. Stop running from pain. Because life is not going to slow down to wait for your growth. It will keep moving. And you will either rise with it, or be crushed under the weight of what you avoided. Your strength doesn't come from ease. It comes from effort. From showing up when you don't feel like it. From sharpening your blade when no one claps for you. Remember this. The strongest one in the room is the one who has suffered in silence, fought battles no one saw, and still chooses to move forward. That's who you are becoming. Not someone who talks about change, but someone who embodies it. Not someone who waits for motivation, but someone who builds through discipline. Not someone who breaks in the dark, but someone who becomes the light. It's like the old words say, fall 7 times, 10 up 8. Pain is temporary, pride is forever. Hard times don't create weak people, they reveal strong ones. You either step forward into growth, or you step back into safety. The choice is always yours. And the one who chooses discipline, silence, suffering, breath, focus, simplicity and responsibility, that one becomes unstoppable, not in theory, in life.